Hello, everyone, and welcome to our IXL professional learning session, all about at-home learning strategies using IXL. I'm so excited that Tucson Unified is here with me today. Sorry, I teach in Tustin. Now, I'm really excited to share more with you about IXL. A couple of housekeeping things about this webinar. This is going to be approximately an hour of presentation of what we can do with IXL, but we have carved out some time for some questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So our microphones are going to be muted today, but if you do have any questions about something that I am presenting, please feel free to type in any questions you have into our Q&A box, and I have some colleagues standing by that can answer your questions. Now, at the end of our session, if we have any additional questions, I can also answer those live and show you some things on the live site as well. Now, this session is being recorded. So this will be sent to you from your administration so you can watch this back later as well. Again, I want to thank everyone so much for joining us today. I'm again very excited to share more about at-home learning strategies using IXL. So I should introduce myself. Let's get familiar with each other. My name is Perry, and I am a professional learning specialist with IXL. And before my time here at IXL, I was a former teacher. I taught 4th through 8th grade math, and I loved using IXL with my students, and they really loved it too. It really made my life easier as a teacher, and I also used IXL for at-home learning purposes, most frequently for homework options and for any kind of extension I wanted to do. So I have a lot to share with you today, and if you have any questions as we move through, again, please refer to our Q&A box, and my colleagues would be happy to answer those questions. But I'll also give you some of our contact information if you have questions after our session today. I also wanted to mention that Chris Loria from Tucson Unified is also live on this session here, and I'll be giving you her information so that you can reach out to her if you have any really Tucson specific questions. Now let's go ahead and get started. I understand that some of you might have dabbled in IXL, but a lot of you are probably pretty unfamiliar with the program. And so I like to start off by answering just a pretty big basic question, and that is, what is IXL? Now, IXL is personalized learning, but personalized learning can be very complex. However, IXL makes it really simple for you to implement it effectively in your physical classroom and in your virtual classroom as well. Now, IXL is built on these four key components. We have a comprehensive pre-K through 12th grade curriculum. We have a real-time diagnostic, personalized guidance, and actionable real-time analytics. So these components are fully integrated. They work together really well to give you really everything you need, especially if you're planning on differentiating instruction with the goal of helping our students grow. So for teachers, IXL is a platform that makes differentiation more efficient and effective. We have comprehensive curriculum that spans from pre-K through 12th grade with personalized targeted guidance built right in. So you can reach every student at the right level really easily and help them grow. And I got to see firsthand that for my students, IXL was really engaging. IXL does a great job driving engagement in an authentic way. It's because we're always encouraging students to own their own learning. They are always embracing new challenges. And what's great to see is that they're truly building skills and confidence, and it's really lasting. Now, there are a lot of ways to use IXL effectively in your classroom, but IXL can also be a really helpful tool to keep students progressing outside of the classroom, especially now during our school closures. So today I'm going to walk you through how you can use IXL to support students in your at-home learning. We will begin by taking a look at how your IXL account is set up, and I'll show you how to navigate through the IXL site. Then we'll take a look at IXL's curriculum and how to find skills that match your lesson objective and how to assign those skills to your students. And finally, we'll talk about some best practices for goal setting so that you can start seeing an impact on student growth right away. And you can use IXL's analytics to check for understanding and plan your next steps. So let's begin with logging in. We have a couple of different directions for you. So my first slide is showing you if you are a teacher of record at Tucson USD. So for our teachers of record, you're going to be able to log in using Clever. And once you're logged in to Clever, you'll see the IXL app on there, and you can just click on that to be logged in. Now, with this method, you do not need to enter a specific IXL username or password because Clever stores that information for you. So again, for teachers of record and for students, you can use the Clever login to be logged into IXL. Now, for any teachers who are not of record, teachers who are not teachers of record, at this time, you're going to be logging into IXL directly. So you do need to know your username and password that is specific for IXL. So I have a little message here that if you do not have an account or you don't remember your username, you can email Chris Loria. Her email is listed here on the screen, and I'll give it to you again at the end of the session, or contact the IXL help desk. Now, there's a couple of really helpful hints here. For IXL, your login is a little bit different than your email address. So your login for IXL will end with @TUSD, and it won't have a 1 like your email address does. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, if you remember your username, but you forgot your password, it's really easy to reset if you go to IXL.com and you just click forgot password. Now, something else that is helpful to note, Tucson has its own unique sign-in page for IXL. This is especially useful if you are signing in and you're a teacher that is not of record. So I have listed that unique URL here at the top. You can go to ixl.com/signin/TUSD. Now that's going to help you because then you don't have to enter in the @TUSD part if you're logging in. I also just took a screenshot of this. I'm sorry, this isn't on the live site. I didn't want to get logged out of my demo account, but I took a screenshot of this probably a half hour ago, and I am amazed by the amount of questions that your school district has already answered. You're already up to 22 million, over 22 million questions, and I'm sure that's going to continue to grow. So that is a really cool piece of data. All right, just keep in mind as well that I can answer any questions for you at the end of the session if you want to save them, or if you want to type in questions as we move through, you can use our Q&A box, and my colleagues are standing by to help you. Now let's get familiar with where you can find everything on IXL once you have entered your account and you're logged in. Here I am logged in as a teacher. And you know what? I know that I'm logged in because I see my name in the top right-hand corner. Now on IXL, it's pretty easy to navigate. There are these 3 tabs in this green horizontal bar. And actually, these are the same 3 words, the same 3 tabs that your students have as well when they log into IXL. Let's take a look at what these tabs have to offer. If I click on the Learning tab, This is actually where your students will spend most of their time because from here, they can access their own recommendations wall. They'll be able to see all of their subjects and skills. You'll be able to access your standards and awards. And I'll show you our skill plans as well. There's a lot to offer here. And just keep in mind that you have access to all the curriculum that your students have access to as well. So you can explore our curriculum skills in our learning tab. Now, the second tab here, it says diagnostic. This is where your students can access IXL's real-time diagnostic. And then the third tab is our analytics tab. Now, this might be what you see right away when you log in. This is essentially your home base as a teacher because this is where you'll access all your real-time data analytic reports. IXL has so many excellent analytic reports. I unfortunately am not able to go through all of our reports with you today. I'm going to focus on a couple of reports that will get you started. Now, additionally, I want to show you one other landmark on your teacher page that is going to be helpful for you to get to know what your students are seeing and what you have to offer on your account. If you click on your name or your drop down arrow up here in the top right hand corner, that's where you will have access to view your roster and your profile and settings. So if you select roster from those options, I do want to let you know that your school has auto rostering set up. So your students' data is already imported. And this means that your roster will be kept up to date for you automatically. So if you have an issue with your roster, then that would be something, instead of trying to manage it on your own, that would be something you would communicate to your district's administrator for IXL. And again, I'll give you her email at the end of the session, and then we can help you there. Now, additionally, when I located the roster, there's also a profile and settings option. Now, this is something I'm not going to click on this right now, but later on, I might mention that there are some things you can adjust in your profile and settings just to customize your account even more. Now, IXL is a comprehensive learning program, and we have more than 8,000 skills at this point that you can use at any time to meet any of your students' learning needs. We really do have everything you need to support and personalize your instruction. So, in order to see the vast number of skills that IXL has in its curriculum, you can click on the Learning tab on your account. Let's take a look together. If you select the Learning tab, as I have now, I can now see the different subjects that we have across the top. So if I teach language arts, I can select the book icon for language arts. And by default, you are going to see all the grade levels that we have to offer. And in math and language arts, we have pre-K through 12th grade skills. In science and social studies, we have some great skills for second through eighth grade. Now you can explore the grade level that you teach. If you click into your grade level, you might notice that there are hundreds of skills, even just at one grade level. So IXL has built so many options for you. It's not really the expectation that your students will finish all of these skills in one school year, but there are options so you can pick and choose what you'd like your students to work on. Now, let's say I'm looking through an analyzing literature section for my third graders, and I want to decide what would be a good skill for my students to do. I'll show you a little later that you can actually jump into any skill that you see listed by clicking on it, but you might just want to see a quick preview. So if you hover your mouse over the name of the skill, you're going to see a preview of that skill. And this can be a great way to see how do the questions progress throughout a skill that we're giving for our students. Now, our skills are designed to be truly adaptive. So any skill your students work on will adapt to them at every step of the way. Students are supported, but they're also challenged and motivated at the right level. This blend is what really inspires your students to keep working to reach their full potential. So, we're going to take a look at a skill together so you can see what I'm talking about. And for this, I want to show you my student demo account. So, I'm going to swipe all the way over here. Here I am as a student, and you can see the students have the same three tabs that we were just looking at on your teacher account. Now I'm going to hop into math. And since I'm a pretend third grader, I'll stay in third grade math. And I'm going to start working on a skill about multiplication. Now, your students will start off at a SMART score of 0. I'm starting off at a SMART score of 39 because I actually started working on this earlier. And IXL always saves your students' progress. Now, let me show you what it looks like for students to start answering questions. Once your students answer questions and they get them right, they're going to see that positive feedback right away. So your students are getting that affirmation right in the moment. We are also keeping track of how many total questions your student has answered in this skill, how much active time they've spent, and then there is a score that I referenced a little earlier. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but the questions have already started getting a little bit more difficult for me as it's asking me to put in more information. So the questions are adapting for me. They're getting a little bit more rigorous because I was getting questions right. And I'm going to get this question right as well. And you can see my SMART score increases there every time I get another question right. When your students are working independently on a worksheet, they're not able to get that immediate feedback unless you grade it right away, which is not always possible in our virtual learning experiences. So when your students are working on an IXL skill from home, they will get that feedback right away. Now, our students don't always get questions right. If your student gets a question wrong, it does also give your student immediate feedback with some corrections. So it lets your student know right away that they did not get that answer correct. This way, your student doesn't build bad habits. If the student made a silly mistake, they can see what they should have done at the top, but IXL gives a question specific explanation if they scroll down. So if your student is working independently, they are going to be able to get that guidance that they need on that exact question that they missed. Now I'm going to press got it and move on. You might have noticed that my score was just a little bit higher before I answered that question wrong. I lost a couple of points because I answered a question incorrectly, but our scoring system is really great for students because it's forgiving. One, two, three, four, five. I have to count. Okay, there we go. A 5 and 5. I'm going to get this question right now, and you'll see that my score will increase again. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit more with you about our SMART score in just a minute, but I want to show you one more aspect of our curriculum that can be really helpful for students when they first get started on a new skill. When your students start working on a skill, they will see this learn with an example option at the top. If they click on that Learn with an Example, IXL gives them a guided walkthrough and a reminder of key ideas so that they feel confident to start working on this skill independently. This is really going to help your students when they're working on their own, especially because you're not physically next to them and they might not have someone physically next to them that can help them. So IXL will give them that guided walkthrough if they click on Learn with an Example before they begin. Then, when they get questions right, they can start earning SMART score points and they can go from there. Now, when your students get to certain SMART scores, they're going to start getting rewards for their achievement. On IXL, when your student reaches a SMART score of 70, 80, and 90, they will get ribbons along the way. And they'll get a gold medal if they get all the way to 100. Now, on IXL, this is our own unique scoring system, but it's a really accurate way to measure your students' understanding of a skill. Now, even though you see that the highest SMART score a student can get is 100, it's actually not a percentage. This analyzes way more than just how many they're getting right out of the total. It takes into account how difficult the question was and how consistent your student is answering as well. So the SMART score is not a percentage, and it is forgiving and motivating as they're moving through the skill. So for each skill, we recommend have students work to a SMART score of 80, which, as you can see on my screen, is proficiency on IXL. So if your students answer questions in a skill until they have a SMART score of 80, that will give you the assurance that your students have a really good grasp on the skill. Then, if your students achieve that proficiency score of 80 and they're feeling good and they're feeling ready for a challenge, they can always go past that. They can always try to get another ribbon or a gold medal. If they keep going, that is an option for them. Additionally, if students want to get to 80, which is your goal, and then they want to take a break, they can always leave a skill and come back to it later and try to reach mastery at another time. So now that we've seen how our IXL skills work and our scoring system, it's really easy to start integrating our skills into your daily practice and your daily plans. To get started, you simply need to choose an IXL skill that supports your objective for your students' learning, whether that be a review skill or maybe a new concept. Now, as I said before, we have over 8,000 skills. So IXL really is designed to cover any topic you might want your student to work on while they're at home. And we have a few different ways that you can find the right skill for your student. Now, since you're just getting started, we have a few really easy recommendations for you on how to find the best IXL skill for your student. The first way is actually how I demonstrated earlier. If you select the subject you would like your students to practice, and then you select the grade level you'd like to explore, you can find many different IXL skills for you to have your students work on. Now, in addition to browsing skills by grade level, IXL also has new skill plans that make it even easier for teachers to find the perfect skills for your students to work on in English language arts and in math. So if you select math or language arts, you'll see that in this view by section, you don't only have to look at our skills by grade level, you can look at our skills by skill plans. And your IXL skill plan will be a really essential part of lesson planning that will give you the exact skills you need to keep students progressing, especially now during our school closures. IXL offers several different types of skill plans, And I'm going to show you all of these different types and give you some recommendations along the way. The first type of skill plan I'd like to explore is the one you'll see at the top of the screen called our IXL Spring Spotlight Skill Plan. Again, to get here, if you select math or language arts and then you select skill plans, the Spring Spotlight Skill Plan will be the first one you see. Now, these are designed to provide you, the teacher, and your students with a day by day plan of essential skills that they can work on while they're at home right now. You can see we have all these grade levels, pre K through high school. And so if you select the grade level that you're teaching, you'll be able to see what the Spring Spotlight Skill Plan looks like. I'm going to select fourth grade. Now, once I do so, I'm looking at the math fourth grade skill plan for the Spring Spotlight. And I also will be able to access a language arts one as well. I'll show you that a little later. Our curriculum team has mapped out 7 to 8 weeks of curriculum. As I said, there's a day by day plan of essential skills that your students can start working on right away. This makes it really easy to get started because if you are not really sure where to start on IXL, this is a really good place. It has some essential and review skills for your students at their grade level. Now I'm going to return to the skill plans page I was just on. And since there are quite a few skill plans that I'm going to show you today, I want to show you a tool that'll make it easier for you and your students to access the most used skill plans that you want them to use. I recommend that you actually pin skill plans you want your students to have easy access to. You can see I don't have any skill plans pinned right now, but I can start doing that really easily. If I hover my mouse over this pin, I can pin as many grade levels of the Spring Spotlight skill plan as I want. Maybe I teach fourth and fifth grade. I can select fourth and fifth grade from here. And now any of my students will be able to really easily access these skill plans. And I'll show you the student perspective a little later. In addition to our Spring Spotlight skill plans, we also have textbook alignments for math and ELA. You'll notice some quick links at the top of the page that can send you right to your grade level. And I'm going to scroll down just to show you we have unpacked the chapters and lessons for over 30 popular math and ELA textbooks. So you can find the textbook that you use. Maybe I use Big Ideas. Then you can click on your grade level. Maybe I teach fifth grade. Once you click on your grade level, that's where you'll see the picture of your actual grade level specific textbook. And you can zoom to any chapter you want to see from the top. Maybe we're working on chapter 7 right now. I can click on chapter 7. It zooms me down to chapter 7. Zooms being a really technical term there. Scrolls me down. But I can also scroll through this entire skill plan to explore how IXL skills are aligned to each chapter and lesson of my textbook. This again makes it so easy for you. Now you can see exactly which IXL skills your students should be working on, whether it be a new chapter of instruction or maybe a previous chapter you've already worked on, but they haven't done the skills on IXL for it. That can be a great opportunity for review for them. Now, I want to remind you that if you'd like your students to have easy access to a textbook alignment, you can pin that textbook alignment as well. I'm going to hover my mouse over the pin icon and select the grade level that I teach, or multiple grade levels if necessary. Now, in addition to our Spring Spotlight skill plans and our textbook skill plans, we also have test preparation skill plans for your students to use. We have alignments to big assessments like the SAT and the ACT, the TABE test, and NWEA MAP growth assessments. So, for any students who might be planning on taking the SAT or ACT later this spring or over the summer, these test prep skill plans are a really valuable resource for them to have more success on those tests. If you'd like your students to have access to these, easy access to these, you can click on the pin next to that alignment. Now, I'm going to show you really quickly that we do also have, I've been spending a lot of time in this math skill plans section, but we do also have skill plans for language arts as well. So if I click on language arts and I select skill plans, I'll see my spring spotlight skill plan for language arts. Let me pin those grade levels. We also have many popular ELA textbooks and our test prep skill plans for English and reading and writing and language for all of these high stakes tests. Now, I've pinned some great skill plans that I want my students to be able to see. What will this look like for them? If I go over to my student account, I do need to do a little bit of a refresh here. There we go. Now that I've pinned skill plans for my students, my student account sees that I have a skill plans tab, and it even has a big pin icon there. That's showing that I have some pinned skill plans for me. This is really easy. If you have pinned some skill plans, maybe the Spring Spotlight skill plan, all your student needs to do is log into IXL and they can click on their skill plans tab. Right away, they will see the skill plans you have pinned for them. Then, per your directive, they can click on their grade level and they can start with week one, day one. Then tomorrow they can work on week one, day two. Again, IXL in our Spotlight skill plans, we give 2 essential skills for students to work on each day. So it's a great place for them to start. It's easy for your students to access. Now let's revisit my teacher account here because I want to show you a really easy way for you to assign skills to your students. Let's say I'm either looking through a skill plan, or maybe I even found a great skill for my students to work on from the grade level view. If I want to direct my students to that and suggest it for them, I can use these gray stars that are listed next to the names of these skills. You'll see these gray stars wherever you look at any of our skill plans, or even when you're looking through this grade level view. So if I want my class to start working on this fractions review skill from home, I can hover my mouse over the star, and that's giving me some options. I can select to assign this to all of my students. Maybe for a different skill, I only want to assign it to a specific class. I can do that as well. If I hover my mouse over the star, I can select a specific class. Now you can even get more specific. If you hover your mouse over the gray star, you can even go within a class and take a look at your student list. This way you can assign skills to specific students. And right now, IXL has actually added an update. So you can see the scores of students on this skill. So you can see if they've already worked on it. So now I can assign this to my student Dorian and Cameron and Rudy and whoever I want to specifically assign it to. Now, if I assign something and I either made a mistake or I want to just remove that as an assignment or suggestion for my students, all I need to do is click on the star again. Once it turns back to gray, it's now no longer assigned to any of my students. Now, your students will see their assigned skills right when they log into IXL. Again, I'll show you that in just a little bit. Now, something I must show you, in addition to looking at our skills by grade level or by our skill plans, we also have an excellent standard alignment for Arizona standards. We provide comprehensive coverage of the concepts required for your state standards. So if you're in your learning tab, you'll see this option. It looks like a clipboard all the way to the right-hand side. It should say AZ standards. If you're not seeing AZ standards right away, you can adjust in your profile and settings what state you're teaching from. Make sure it says Arizona. Then when you click on that button there, you can select a specific subject next to where it says Arizona. And then you can select a specific grade level. That will give you access to seeing that grade level standards. And underneath each standard, we have one or more IXL skills that align with each standard. This is giving you a targeted list of skills that are going to support the standards you're teaching, and it's just going to give you a great idea of the essential skills for this grade level. Now, I want to show you a really great way to explore this even further. If you want to assign one of these skills for your students, I encourage you to click on the name of the skill. Let's say maybe I'm going to work on this division skill. I want to assign this to my students. I can click on it, and this allows me to enter the skill, and I'm kind of able to see it as my students would. They would see different questions, but this is showing me the types of questions that they would get. Now, once you enter a skill, you might notice, I know it's a little small, but where my mouse is circling right now, you have the option to star the skill right from here. So you can select to assign this to all of your students or even just one class or a specific student. I'm going to assign it to all of my students. Now, in addition to using the star feature, you can actually direct your students to a specific skill in another way. Each skill on IXL has its own unique URL. That's a great opportunity because now, if you copy this link that you see at the top of the page when you are in a skill, if you copy that link and you paste it on your classroom website, on an assignment in your learning management system, or in a hyperdoc, or in an email to your student or their families, once they see that link and they click on it, they're going to be able to enter this skill right away, and they'll be able to start working right as they enter. They do need to make sure that they're logged in, and they can do that really easily. So again, you can use this unique URL to copy the link, paste it in an email or into your LMS system or a hyperdoc. When your students see that as an assignment, they'll be able to click on it and start working right away. If any of the teachers watching are using Google Classroom, we have a button for you that takes one step out of that process. If you're in the skill you want to assign and you scroll down, you'll see that there are some sharing options and a Google Classroom button right there. If you click on that, you can push this out as a Google Classroom assignment to all of your students or a group of students or individuals as well. If you're using a different learning management system, like maybe Schoology or Canvas or something like that, you can copy this link at the top of the screen and paste it on an assignment and send that out to your students. Now, let's take a look at the student perspective again. I want to remind you that when your students log in, this is their landing page. They land on their recommendations wall. Now, notice at the top of the screen here, they will see their skills that you have starred for them. This is so useful for your students because right when they log in, they essentially get a notification from you. Right away, it says 4 skills suggested by your teacher. They can click on that and they can see the skills suggested to them. If your student is working on IXL with you and maybe another teacher doing a different subject or something like that, if you're both starring skills for that student, they will see all their starred skills listed here in the different subject areas that they're working in. So again, right away when your students log in, they can click here to find what they should do first. Then remember, it is really easy for them to access their skill plan if you want them to work off of the skills on any of those skill plans. But if your student needs even more learning opportunities beyond what you've assigned, you can have them visit this recommendations wall, which again is their landing page. IXL uses the insight from your students' work in progress in their curriculum and also our real-time diagnostic to power personalized guidance for every single one of your students. So each one of your students will log in and they will have their own recommendations wall. They will have their own list of skills that have been specifically selected for them. These are skills in the math and language arts curriculum that they have shown that they need to work on right now, or they can work on right now. So this wall essentially is an endless selection of skills that are just right for them. So again, if they need something to work on, they can come here and scroll through their options. And even though you're not right next to them and guiding them, when they select a recommended skill, you can have the assurance and you can feel confident that what they're doing is a productive use of their time because these skills have been specifically selected for that individual student. Now, let's take a look at closely monitoring our students' progress while they're working from home. IXL gives you the data that you need to make sure that your students have reached their SMART score goals, even when you're not right next to them in the classroom. So we would suggest using a certain analytic report called our Students Quick View. You can access this by clicking on Analytics and then clicking on Students. You'll see a little icon with a student on a computer there. This is going to be a great, first of all, at the top, it's a great overhead view of the skills that your students have practiced on IXL recently, including skills you've assigned to them. Now, before I scroll down, I just want to show you some great filters at the top. You can just look at one class at a time. You can filter this report to just looking at one subject at a time. And something really cool is you can change the date range. If you're wondering, what have my students been doing today, or what have my students been doing this week, or this month, or any custom date, you can customize that by changing the date range. Then once you've done that and you scroll down, you're going to get a really good idea of what your students have been up to recently. So for any skill your student has practiced, it will be within that time range, it will be listed here. You're going to see the student's name and then the grade level of the skill they worked on, the name of the skill, other important information like how many questions, how much active time, and then their SMART score in each skill. So this is a great way to check on your students' progress. When you're looking through, it is good to look at a combination of how much time have they spent and what their SMART score progress is, because that can be really insightful about your students' work. As I'm scrolling through, I might choose to recognize Maya for going above and beyond and reaching a SMART score of 100 in this skill she worked on here. But I'm also checking to see if they've reached the goals that I've set for them. Some of my students have not reached a SMART score of 80 in some of the skills listed. So that's something that I can note and talk about with them. This is a great overarching view of everything your students have been up to on IXL recently. Now, while days out of school can be stressful, with IXL, you really can ensure that your students are going to be continuing and developing a deep understanding of those key concepts, even when you can't meet in class each day. So, by using IXL's skills through our skill plans, maybe, and then having students work on those skills until they reach a SMART score of 80, and then checking in on your students' progress by using the Students Quick View report, you can keep tabs on your students' learning and keep them progressing during at-home learning days.